This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. So, so in the last session, we talked about if statement, if else statement, if else if statement. Okay. So I'll just give a review of those things again, just 1 2 minutes, and then we'll talk about the other types of if statements. And today we will start with loops. Loops in Python. Okay. So when I'm talking about if structures. Okay, so I'm talking about if structures. If I'm talking about if structures, so we have if. So if only works on a condition, and if the condition is true, works on a condition, and if the condition is true, a true statement gets executed. Okay, so true statement or statements get executed. Statement or statements get executed. Okay, so when if the condition is true, if the condition is true, the true statements get executed. Okay, so true statement gets executed. So if the condition is false, okay, so if the condition is false, if the condition is false, okay, so if the condition is false, then the if exits, then the if exits, basically that will happen. Okay, then if you are talking about if else, next is if else. So if else, in if else what happens is we will have a condition. Okay, so in if else we will have a condition. If the condition is true, true statement gets executed, and the if it is false, the false statements get executed. Okay, so the false statement gets executed. Okay, so the basic idea here is, so false statements gets executed. Okay, so if else, in the if else, we have a condition check, and if that is true, the true statement gets executed. If the condition is false, the false statement gets executed. And next is if else if. So in if else if, what happens is, in if else if we will be looking at a condition. So condition one, so if the condition one is going to be true, uh, the condition one is going to be true, a true statement, so true statement or statements get executed. If the condition is false, if the condition is false, so if the condition is false, then again there will be, okay, so there will be condition 2. Okay, so condition 2. So if again here if it is true, so if it is true, the true statement gets executed. The true statement get executed. And again, if it is false, then there will be condition. So then there will be condition 3. Okay, so condition 3. And if that condition is true again, if that condition is true again, then the true statement gets executed. So this process will go on. So this process will go on until, okay, so this process will go on until we have, okay, so until we have the last condition checked. So if the last condition, okay, so for example, if I'm saying the last condition, let's say condition n, if the condition n is true, so if the condition n is true, the true statement gets executed. Otherwise, okay, so if it is false again, okay, so if it is false again, so if it is false again, so what will happen? So if it is false, then the false statement gets executed. So there will be number of true false statements basically. Okay, so there will be number of true false statements. Okay, so in that way you are looking at, the true and the false statements. Okay, so basic logic is, so you have many true statements and one and only one false statement. So if all the conditions are false, then the statement will get executed. Okay, so in that way it goes. So then we will talk about the nested if. Okay, so nested if. So what is nested if? Basically, the if structures, or I will say any kind of any kind of if structures. Okay, so any kind of if structures inside, any kind of if structures inside any other kind of, inside any other kind of if structures. Okay, so if structures under any other kind of if structure. So nested if means any kind of if structure inside another kind of if structure. Now, so we'll go for an example. Okay, so the example is, check whether a number is divisible by 3 and 5. Okay, so check whether a number is divisible by 3 and 5. So we are going to check whether a particular number is divisible by 3 and also 5. So how can I check that whether a particular number is divisible by 3 and 5? Okay, so now we will try to use a nested if. Okay, so we'll try to use a nested if. So we can use a nested if, I'll tell you. So you have a if structure. So if, okay, so take a number. So let the number be int of input of enter a number. Okay, so int of input of enter a number. So if n, so if n is divisible by 3. Okay, so if n is divisible by 3, so how can I check whether a number is divisible by 3? So divide that number and get the remainder. If the remainder of that expression is 0, if the remainder of that expression is 0. Okay, so if the remainder of that expression is 0, okay, so if the remainder of that expression is 0, we are going to say that, okay, so the remainder of that expression is 0. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here, if the remainder of that expression is 0, this particular number is divisible by 3. Okay, and I also need to check, okay, so I also need to check whether that same number is divisible by 5. The same number is divisible by 5. If that number is divisible by 3, then go and check whether that number is divisible by 5. If that number is divisible by 3 and if that number is divisible by 5 also, then I will say print, so print n is divisible. Okay, so divisible by 3 comma 5. Okay, so n is divisible by 3 comma 5. Okay, so if that number is divisible by 3 and if it is not divisible by 5, so what we should say is, we should say else. Okay, else, so what I can say, I can simply say else print, okay, print n is divisible by 3 but not by 5. Okay, so but not by 5. So we are saying else print n is divisible by 3 but not by 5. So n is divisible by 3, so that is why I am inside. So if it is divisible by 5 also, I will print this. If it is divisible by 3 and it is not divisible by 5, we are giving n is divisible by 5 but not by, divisible by 3 but not by 5. Okay, now let's have a situation where that number is not divisible by 3 also. Then what I will say is, I will say else, or I'll say elif, So you need to check whether the number is divisible by 5. So if the number is not divisible by 3 right away, I am checking whether that number is divisible by 5. If that number is divisible by 5, I will say print n is divisible by 5 but not by 3. But not by 3. Okay, so if this is false, directly the checking comes here. So if it is false, the directly checking comes here. And if this is also false, I will go and say else, so print, okay, else print n is, so print n is divisible, n is not divisible by 3 comma 5. Okay, so not divisible by 3 comma 5. So this is called as nested if structure. So nested if structure. Now simply I will give all the scenarios. So where I will say something like uh, 15. Okay, so 15 is divisible both by 3 and 5. Okay, so 3 and 5. So then I will run it again. Now I will say enter a number 18. So now I will say n is divisible by 3 but not by 5. Okay, then again I will run this. This time I will give something like 25. So 25 is divisible by 5 but not by 3. Okay, so and then we will go for enter a number something like 19. So 19 is not divisible by uh, 3 or 5. Okay, so let me make you understand this program once again. Okay, whenever I am talking about nested if, so you are checking here. Okay, so first you are coming with a value of n, and then you are checking that with n mod 3 is equal to 0. N mod 3 is equal to 0, it will be either true or false. Okay, so now, so true or false. So then again, if uh, this is true, so if this is true, what I need to check is, I need to check again. So I need to check again n mod 5 equals to 0. Okay, so if this is true, I will print, divisible by 3 comma 5. Okay, so if it is not, I need to print, so I need to print divisible by 3 but not by 5. Okay, so divisible by 3 but not by 5. Okay, so then you will be out of the if. Okay, so you will be out of the if. Okay, so if it is false, it will check n mod 5 equals to 0. So we'll see all the possibilities, and if this is true, so this is going to say n is divisible by 5. Okay, so divisible by 5 but not 3, okay, and if this is false, so ultimately you will say n is not divisible by, so not divisible by 3 comma 5. So this will be the end of the chapter. Okay, so that's how you are going to, okay, so this is going to be n, so n not divisible by, so it is just like n not divisible by 3, so not divisible by 3, so this is true and it will be the end. So and here also it will be the end, and this will come to the end of the if. Okay, now first value is n is equal to 15. Okay, so 15 mod 3 equals to 0, so this is going to be true. So then 15 mod 5 is equal to 0. This is also going to be true. As these both are true, you are getting an answer divisible by 3 comma 5. So divisible by 3 comma 5. So you are getting that particular answer. Okay. So then you are going for, something like n is equal to 18. So n is equal to 18. So you are saying 18 mod 3 equals to 0. which is going to be true, and 18 mod 5, which is going to be false. So when it is saying false, so divisible by 3, but not by 5, but not by 5. Okay. So now we took n is equal to 25. So 25 mod 3 equals to 0 is false. False means you come here. Okay. Then you check 25 mod 5 equals to 0. So this is true. So true means n is divisible by 5 but not by 3. Okay. And if this is also false. Now for example, I took 19. So 19 mod 3, 19 mod 3 is equal to 0 is false. So then it comes here. So 19 mod 5 is equal to 0 is also false. So then it will directly come here and it will print not divisible by 3 comma. So in this way, you are looking at the total uh, flow. So with the inputs, okay. So total flow with the input. So this is how we are going to take the things into consideration in the nested if. Okay. So nested if is nothing but an if structure inside another if structure. Another if structure. So the outer if can be any kind of if, and the inner if can be any kind of if. So we will make a small note of it. An outer if can be any kind of if, and the inner if can be any kind of, so any kind of if. So outer if can be any kind of if, and the inner if also can be any kind of if basically. Okay. So we are looking in that way. Okay. So that is how we are dealing with the nested if. Okay. And finally we are talking about shortcut if. Okay. So shortcut if. So what is this shortcut if basically? So shortcut if is nothing but the type of if which is equivalent to, so which is equivalent to, okay, shortcut if is equivalent to if else, but it works on a single line. It works on a single line. The type of if in which is equivalent to if else rather, but it works on a single line. Okay, so what is the basic idea here? We will try and understand. So whenever you are talking about this shortcut if, so what you are saying is, so you are checking, okay, so you are checking the largest of, so checking the largest of two numbers, checking the largest of two numbers. Okay, so we are checking the largest of two numbers. So a comma b is equal to 3 comma 5. So directly also I can give in this way. So a greater than b, so a greater than b. Okay, so you can use uh, print of a is big. Okay, so a is big. Otherwise, so you can say print of b is big. Okay, so b is big. So what we are trying to do here, so we are trying to oh sorry, I'm talking about uh, okay, so this is like uh, okay, so we are talking about a greater than b. Okay, so I'm writing in Java way basically. So print a is big. Okay, so a is big. So if a greater than b, okay, so a greater than b, else print b is big. So the previous one was like in Java we do that. So I will say b is big. Okay, so b is big. Okay. So now you are getting b is big because out of 3 and 5, so you are having, so out of 3 and 5 you are having b is big. So how this will work? So this will work basically, okay, so this will work basically like if a is big, so this will be either true or false. If this is true, this statement will get executed. If this is false, this statement will get executed. Okay, so that's the point. So if a is big, so I mean if this is true, this statement gets executed. So if this is false, this statement will get executed. So that is what is a shortcut if basically. So shortcut if works on binary values. So shortcut if works on binary values. So whenever I'm talking about binary values here, so it works on the binary values. Okay, so that is what the point here all about. Okay, so this is shortcut. So these are all the styles of the if statement. So we have if condition, if else if, nested if, and shortcut if. Then we will be talking about the loop control structures. Okay. So loop control structures. So whenever I'm saying loop control structures, okay, so loop control structures. So the execution of a statement or statements. So execution of a statement or statements for specific number of times. For specific number of times. So the loops control structures are the execution of statement or statement for specific number of times. Okay, for specific number of times. So we have two basic loop structures. Two basic loop structures. Okay, so first one is going to be while loop. So while loop, and then we are going to talk about the for loop. Okay, so first one is going to be while loop, and the second one is going to be a for loop. Okay, so first we'll talk about the while loop. In this, we can execute a statement or a statement. So statement or statements. So we can execute statement or statements from a start point to the end point. From a start point to the end point. Okay, so we can execute the statement or statement from the start point to the end point. Okay, so from the start point to the end point with a step. Okay, so with a step. Okay, so with a step. So now, for example, I want to print 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. So here the start point is 1, okay, and the end point is 5, and the step is 1. Okay, so step is 1. So what I'm trying to say here, so 1 2 3 4 5 you are printing. So 1 is the start point and 5 is the end point, and you are going with plus 1. Okay, so 1 plus 1 2. So here again plus 1 3, here again plus 1 4, here again plus 1 5. So we are going for 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus, I mean, sorry, 1 2 3 4 5. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and so these are going to be the steps. These are going to be the steps. Now, for example, if I want to print 1 3 5 7 9, okay, so this is the start point, So start point is going to be 1, end point is going to be 9, and step is going to be plus 2. The step is going to be plus 2. So the point here is how can we put this start point, end point, and step in the loop? Okay, right. So the start point can be put into the program, using the initialization. So using the initialization, the endpoint can be a condition. The endpoint can be a condition, and the step can be a can be a can be an operation. Can be an operation that will update the variable. That will update the variable. Okay, so that will update the variable. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is, now getting back to the same example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I will say something like I is equal to 1, which is initialization. Okay. So then I is equal to I plus 1, which is nothing but update. And I will go on up to 5. I will go on up to 5. Okay, so I is 1, I is equal to I plus 1, I less than or equal to 5. So this is known as the start point, this is the step, and this is the condition. This is the condition. Okay, so start point, step, and the condition. So what are the three things that we need to know here? So we need to know about the start point, we need to know about the step, and we need to know about the condition. Now for example, the question is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Start point is I is equal to 1, I is equal to I plus 2, and then I less than or equal to 9, or you can simply say I less than 10. Okay. Now for example, it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I is equal to 5, I is equal to I minus 1, and I greater than or equal to 1, or you can also use I greater than 0. So what exactly we are talking about here? So we are talking about the initialization and the step. So we are talking about initialization and the step, and we are talking about the end point. Okay, so we are talking about the end point. So these are the things that we are going to uh, talk about. The start point can be put into the program via initialization, and the endpoint can be via condition. So via condition, and the update can be via step. Okay. Now how we can use this in the program? So that is the main important thing over here. So now we will go for the table. Okay, so table, here I'll say syntax, here I'll say flowchart, and here I'm going to talk about so syntax, flowchart, and the example. So where I will say while condition. Okay, so while condition, but before the condition, so we need to have the initialization. So we need to have the initialization. So initialization while the condition colon. So you need to say the statements. Okay, so statement or statement. So statements can be anything. So it can be a simple print statement, it can be if logic, so it can be anything basically. Okay, and then we will be talking about the update. Okay, so we'll be talking about the update. So initialization while space condition, here you'll have the statements and here you'll have the update. Okay, so then we are talking about the flow chart. So we're talking about the flow chart. So in the flow chart, so you can say in the flow chart what we can say here. So we can say uh, the start of the program, and it will be a loop basically. So it will be a loop. So start of the program and the program will continue. So here you will have the initialization. So here you will have the initialization and here you will have the condition. So here you'll have the condition and the condition, if the condition is true, you will have the statements executed. So you have the statements executed and after the statements you will have the update. So this update will make sure that the condition is tested again. Okay, that the condition is tested again. If the condition is tested again, again it will check true or false. If it is true, the statements get executed. So if it is false, okay, so if the condition is false, it will go out. So this will be like ultimate. Okay, so condition becoming false is an ultimate thing that can happen. Okay, so this will go. Suppose if there are 10 conditions true, so the number of statements will be printed are 10 statements. If zero condition is true, then the number of statements printed are zero. Okay, so in that way you can go for the things. Okay, so now we'll have the same example. So print from 1 to 5. Okay, so print from 1 to 5. So you are printing from 1 to 5. Okay, so you are printing from 1 to 5. So here you are printing the data from 1 to 5. Okay, you are printing the data from 1 to 5. So how we are going to print the data from 1 to 5? So initialization is 1, ending point is 5. Okay, so initialization is 1, ending point is 5. So we have to put that things over here. So we will say initialization. So what is initialization? I is equal to 1. So condition is I less than or equal to I less than or equal to 5. And what is the statement here? Statement is print of I basically. Okay, so statement is print of I and the update is going to be I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so now what will be printed? So this I value will be printed 5 times. Okay. So let me just show you here. So the I value is equal to 1. So I less than or equal to 5. So I less than or equal to 5 may be true or false. Okay. So maybe true or false. If it is true, so what I told you, you have to print I value. Okay, so if it is false, so you have to come out of the loop. Okay, here it is I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so what is the output that you will get? Okay, so I is equal to 1, 1 less than or equal to 5. So which is true. So true means what should be printed? I value. What is I value? I value is going to be 1. So then I is equal to I plus 1. So I is equal to I plus 1. I value incremented by 1. So 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. So I value is going to be 2. Okay. So I value was 1. So now the I value is 2. So 2 is less than or equal to 5. It is true. So true means again I value will be printed. I is equal to I plus 1. So the value will be 3. And then so the I value becomes 3. So 3 less than or equal to 5. So that is also true. 3 will be printed. Then I value becomes 4. So 4 less than or equal to 5. That is also true. So 2 means 4 should get printed. So I is equal to I plus 1, which is nothing but 5 now. So 5 less than or equal to 5. That is also true. So 5 will be printed. And then you are having the I incremented, which is going to be 6. So 6 less than or equal to 5 is false. So false means I should come out of this without doing anything. Okay. So simply what I'm doing here, I'm saying print 1 to 5. Okay, so printing 1 to 5. So I is equal to 1. So I is equal to 1. So while I less than or equal to 5, I less than or equal to 5, and I'll say print of I. So print of I, and then I'll say I is equal to I plus 1. So what is the output over here? So output is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how you are getting that output here? So you are getting that output here. So something like something like this. Okay. So here is the way that you are working with the while loop. So in the while loop, what is happening? You are starting at a point and you are ending at a point, and you are going with a step. So you're going with a step. So that's how we look at the data. So we look at the data printing or data execution rather. Okay. So data, okay, so execution. Okay, so now, okay, another example if I have to take. So now for example I'll take print. So print something like print hello python. So print hello python for 5 times. Okay, so print hello python for 5 times. So it is not that every time you have to uh, use the I value only. So you can write a code without printing the I value. So I less than or equal to 5, I less than or equal to 5, and here instead of printing the I value, so instead of printing the I value, so I can simply say, I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so I is equal to I plus 1. So this time what happens? You will print hello Python for 5 times. So how this thing has happened? Okay, so how this thing has happened? So as you observe here, so you are getting, okay, so again I is equal to 1. So if I is equal, I less than or equal to 5. So this time what you are saying? You are saying you print hello Python. So you print hello Python. So you print hello Python. So I is equal to 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 5 true. So true means what will be printed? Hello Python is printed. Okay, hello Python is printed. So then again I value will be incremented by 1. So I is equal to I plus 1. So I is equal to I plus 1 means, so 1 plus 1, which is going to be 2. I value becomes 2. So again 2 less than or equal to 5. So that is also true. True means what should be printed? Hello Python is printed. Then again I is equal to I plus 1. So I equal to I plus 1 is 2 plus 1. So which is 3. So I becomes 3. Okay, so 3 less than or equal to 5. That is also true. True means hello Python will be printed. So then next, so I is equal to I plus 1. So I is equal to I plus 1 means 3 plus 1, which is 4. So I becomes 4. So 4 less than or equal to 5. That is also true. So hello Python will be printed. So then I is equal to I plus 1. So I is equal to I plus 1. So what is I value now? I value is 4 plus 1, which is 5. So I value is 5. So 5 is less than or equal to 5 is also true. Then hello Python will be printed. So then I is equal to I plus 1, which is 5 plus 1 is going to be 6. Okay, so 6 less than or equal to 5 will be false. So false means you are out of the loop. So you're out of the loop. So this is how the loop is getting executed. Okay, so we'll have some more examples in our next session. Hope you understood the logic behind the looping. So we can use if structures, we can use any structures for that matter. Okay. So yeah, so that's it from me for today's session. So if you have any doubts, any questions, you can ask me. Okay, okay then, right? Lakshmi Narayana, right? Bye.